The doors of Ajora's sanctum shut behind us with a soft thud, and the tension between us thickened like fog. We stood there for a moment, in the narrow courtyard at the top of the stairway, silent, except for the distant rustling of wind in the trees below. Dhalâra led the way down the steps, toward the larger courtyard below, and I followed without speaking. My chest felt tight, like I was holding my breath without realizing it. I couldn't tell whether I was angry at her or just tired. Maybe both. The meeting with Azura had left me tangled in emotions I couldn't quite unravel, and walking beside Dhalâra only tightened the knot. "Your chambers lie on the 12th terrace," she said, seemingly trying to smooth things over. "It's nice there. At least, that's what I think. Ezra told me Outlanders don't appreciate rot. The 12th terrace is the least rotten of all the tiers in the Forbidden Temple." I said nothing. By the time we reached my new chambers, the sun was sinking low, casting the stones in warm amber tones. Dhalâra slid open a paper-panelled door, revealing a small but inviting room. The polished wood floor gleamed, softened by woven mats placed to cushion each step. A low table of dark lacquered wood held a tray of delicately arranged fruits and a slender ceramic flask of wine. Both placed near a window framed by silk curtains, painted with writhing ornaments. The last light of day filtered through the fabric, casting gentle shadows that swayed across the floor. Moss and vines crept through cracks in the walls, but Dhalâra had spoken true. Compared to the rest of this ancient temple, the room wasn't so steeped in age. It wasn't bad. Nothing like the lavish quarters I'd had at Castle Lavenhugel, but certainly nicer than the Forsaken Garden. And warmer. At least the food here wasn't fungus. "So, here it is," Dhalâra said, glancing at me as if gauging my reaction. I gave a nod and stepped further inside, setting the small pendant Azura had given me on the table. My eyes swept the room, catching on a wooden closet tucked discreetly into the corner. I walked over and eased the door open. Inside, fresh robes hung neatly on a slender wooden bar, kimonos, houris, or whatever they were called. Fresh was generous. The fabric was faded, the edges frayed. But compared to most things in this temple, the decay was almost tasteful. I brushed my fingers along one, the material smooth and cool, then closed the door again. "Emilia." Dhalâra's voice was hesitant. I wanted to say, I'm sorry I lied." I turned toward her, one brow lifting. "Azura told me to help you. And I did want to follow her will, I won't deny that. But that wasn't all. I also wanted to help you." She lifted her head, and for the first time her gaze met mine without wavering. No half stare, no lingering look at my cheekbones. Just her eyes, steady, direct, and unbearably sincere. My heart fluttered, and for a moment it felt like we'd both been stripped bare, exposed in a way I'd never have imagined possible. "I understand if you don't believe me," she said quietly. "And if you don't want me around anymore, I'll leave you alone." I stared at her, still unsure of what to say. The bitterness of betrayal sat cold in my chest. But somehow, the idea of her leaving, actually leaving, hurt worse. "Dhalâra." "I was the one who prepared those meals, you know," she said, tugging at her sleeves.
picking up what to put in. What nuts, fruits, the berries I saw you liked. Always thinking, what would Emilia want to eat today? Definitely not octopus.
She let out a soft, uneven breath, eyes falling to the floor.
That was all me, not Dhalâra. Just me. I could have dropped off the basket and gone back, but I didn't. I stayed. I liked staying. I liked talking. And I want to keep doing that. With you.
She lifted her eyes. There was a flicker in them. Something unspoken, fragile, hovering just at the edge of expression.
I like you,
she said. The words hit something tender. I recognized it as the same pain I'd been carrying, only now it was raw, stripped of bitterness, and before I could stop myself, I knew I didn't want her gone. I wanted her here, with me. I like to be with you too, I said. I should have said more, but that was the best I could do. It's fine, I added.
What's fine?
You don't have to leave me alone. Her face lit with a small, relieved smile.
Oh, I won't then.
Silence stretched between us. She glanced toward the window and gave a soft, awkward smile.
It's getting late,
she said. Yeah.
I should go. I've got katana practice at dawn.
Right. She turned to leave, but I stopped her. Dhalâra. She paused and turned back to me. I cleared my throat, trying to find the words I should have said. I didn't. So I went with something else. Tell Ajora I'll accept her offer to learn the way of the Erden, whatever the hell that means. Dhalâra blinked, a flicker of surprise crossing her face. But I'm not committing to staying, I added quickly. After these remaining 8 months, I'm going home. Tell her I'm just bored. She nodded, a small smile curling on her lips.
I'll tell her.
Then she slipped out, leaving me alone with my thoughts. The room was quiet, save for the low hum of wind whispering along the walls. I wandered aimlessly, brushing my fingers across the low table, the smooth grain of the wooden bed frame, the cool surface of the wine bottle. The space felt warm, like slipping into the embrace of a dream. The shadows of leaves danced along the walls in the faint candlelight. It was the kind of comfort I hadn't let myself feel since arriving here. I poured myself a cup of wine and sat by the window, watching the sky shift from muted gold to twilight blue. The wine was warm on my tongue, earthy, almost mossy, but it soothed the tightness in my chest. I took another sip and leaned back, letting my thoughts settle. Ajora's words drifted through my mind, slow and tangled, like threads I was still trying to follow. What if I'd been wrong about her? I'd carried my anger like armor since the feast, convinced she was a monster. But now, maybe I'd misjudged her. She had apologized. Sincerely, I thought. At least it had felt that way. She told me directly that she'd sent Dhalâra to smooth things over. She hadn't needed to confess that. She could have kept it hidden. Dhalâra would have never betrayed her trust. All I'd had was suspicions. But she chose to let me in. The way she'd spoken about Zeraven's teachings, it had felt real. And if their gods demanded raw, unfiltered emotion, maybe Dhalâra's kindness hadn't been some act. Maybe it really had been real all along. The thought sent a jolt through my chest, and my lips twitched into a half smile. I swirled the wine in my cup, watching the deep red liquid catch the candlelight. I thought about Dhalâra, her apology, the way her eyes had locked with mine, the softness in her voice when she said she liked me. And Dhalâra. Maybe learning the way of the Erden wouldn't be the worst thing. Once I got back to Foxenberg, I didn't have to tell anyone. I could keep it to myself, let it fade with time. What would it feel like, I wondered, to truly master the rituals and teachings of this mad place, to become something more than I ever thought I could be, as Dhalâra put it. I remembered the forsaken garden, the blissful void, the mushrooms, the statue of Lagina, the pull of oblivion, the sweetness of surrender. Again, I saw myself on a throne overgrown with vines, antlers crowning my head, a long staff in my hand, a crowd of disciples kneeling at my feet. Spirits drifted around me, dark and sweet, whispering secrets of the universe. I was power itself, the wisest, most beautiful woman in all of Loch Lillesh. A laugh slipped from me, low and amused. I shook my head. It was ridiculous. And yet... I took another sip of wine, warmth blooming in my chest. Even that mossy flavor didn't seem so strange anymore. I drained the cup and set it down. A strange lightness settled over me, as if the weight I'd been carrying since the feast had finally lifted. The suspicion, the tension, the constant second-guessing, it all seemed to drift away. Maybe I'd let my fear get the better of me. Maybe there weren't any games here. Just a group of foreign people trying their best to do what they thought was right. I crossed the room and placed the empty cup on the table. Maybe, just maybe, things would be all right. If only I could let myself believe it. That night, sleep came easily. I sank into the bed, letting the warmth of the blankets carry me away. My mind drifted in quiet darkness until the dream began. It started as a ripple, a faint shift, something stirring in the shadows of my mind. Darkness thickened, spreading like ink across a page, swallowing everything. The warmth faded, replaced by a cold, creeping sensation slithering over my skin. Then came the sound of roaring rain. I cracked open my eye and found myself alone in a vast, warped landscape. Jagged mountains clawed up from fractured earth. The sky above was fissured like the bed of a dried-up river, each crack glowing faintly with lightning that rumbled in the dark. A storm raged in the distance, heavy clouds writhing as if alive. Rain poured down in torrents, every drop pounding the ground, splitting it further apart. Then came the voice. Dhalâra is lying. A breathy murmur, everywhere and nowhere, curled around me in the rain. No source, no shape, no mouth, just the voice, faceless, endless. I tried to scream, but I had no mouth. And unlike the voice, I couldn't get around that. Do not trust her. The weight on my chest grew, suffocating. I gasped, but the air was thick, no relief. Panic clawed up my throat as I struggled to move, to breathe, to wake. But the harder I fought, the deeper the nightmare dragged me down.
Trust no one.
The voice darkened, etched from the night itself. It echoed through the warped landscape, each word striking like thunder.
She's watching you.
The words coiled tighter, squeezing like a vice. My lungs burned, my vision swam in black, and finally, I managed to scream. I jolted awake, heart pounding against my ribs. Every breath was jagged, like I'd been drowning. The room was still. Too still. The warmth I'd felt earlier was gone. I sat up, blankets tangled around my legs, and pressed the heels of my hands to my eyes. One hand found only empty skin, and a jolt of anguish ran through me. I remembered what Azura had taken. The words from the dream rang in my head. Trust no one. A sick feeling curled in my stomach. I shook my head, trying to push the thought away, but it clung. My body was drenched in sweat. My arms were cold, prickling with pins and needles. I forced myself up, fighting the drowsiness threatening to pull me under. The last thing I wanted was to be dragged back into that hellscape. In my mind, I retraced every word Azura had said. And then one line snapped into focus. Something she'd said while explaining how she'd sent Dhalâra to look after me in the Forsaken Garden.
Your suspicions about Dhalâra weren't wrong.
My stomach clenched. How could she have known I'd had suspicions like that? Had Dhalâra told her? Told her everything? Or... Then the memory of the dream voice returned, dropping my heart to the floor.
She's watching you.
My gaze slid to the pendant on the table. Its dark stone gleamed faintly in the gloom, catching the low light from the window like a polished eye. I swallowed. A new kind of chill set in. I was afraid. I stood, naked in the dark, and crossed the cold wooden floor. I picked up the pendant. Its weight sat heavy in my palm, the engraved symbol pressing into my skin like a silent brand. Without thinking, I turned to the window, threw it open, and hurled the pendant into the night. I waited, watching as it vanished into the darkness. It was stupid, I knew, as if Azura could spy on me through some dumb little trinket. But then again, what did I really know about the limits of her power? A shiver ran through me. Goose flesh rose across my skin. I shut the window and pulled the curtains tightly closed, making sure not a sliver remained open. Finally, I crawled back into bed, dragging the sheets up to my chin, ducking under them like a child. My pulse throbbed in my ears, too loud in the quiet room. When morning came, sunlight slipped over the temple roofs and filtered through my curtains, dissolving the weight of the night before. I almost felt foolish for my reaction. And yet, a subtle unease lingered, like a splinter beneath the skin. The voice, it had felt so real, thick and breathy. I could still feel the damp whisper against my ear, as if it hadn't been a dream at all, but someone beside me, someone of flesh, blood, and bone. I glanced around the room. It was silly, but for a moment, I half expected to see them there, crouching behind the furniture.